welcome to the Canadian Spartan Ambassador Podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Amber.
And I'm Jill, and we are ready to take you through some Canadian Spartan content. We are so excited to bring this podcast to you, where we will discuss lots of topics Spartan Race Canada.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay connected for all our exciting episodes to come. Okay, hi everybody. Welcome back to the Canadian Spartan Ambassador Podcast. We are at episode 8, and this one is going to be jam-packed. We've got multiple interviews coming at you guys, and we've got a lot to talk about because it's been a busy few weeks up here in the Great White North of Canada. So we're going to be kicking things off with, we've got Mike with us tonight, and we're going to be talking about the Red Deer National Series race that happened, actually it was 2 weeks ago, but we're going to start things off with that. So Mike, welcome to the podcast. Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself, and we'll start things there.
Hey everyone, it was great. Red Deer was an amazing venue. I'm the Western Canadian lead for the ambassador program. I went out to Red Deer for my 3rd time to participate in the race and did my first age group out there.
Amazing. How was that? How did that go for you?
No, that was good. The race was flat and fast like I expected, and the course was great. I really like going back to Red Deer for that reason.
And did you find a big jump between open and age group, or were you ready for the challenge?
You know what? I thought about it, and for those that are considering making that leap, if you're already racing more or less on your own, just do it. Sign up for the age group. There's the pressure is all in your head, really, at the end of the day.
It's true. So were you racing like as part of the series, or were you just like generally jumping into age group just for fun and enjoying the sport?
Just for fun. I'm going to do the age group at Kelowna as well, but I won't be going out to Blue Mountain.
So you said the course was flat and fast, which I love that as a description, and that totally sounds like my jam. Just out of curiosity, did you get a chance to watch any of the age group racers that were racing as part of the series? Like, was that Fast and Furious or flat Fast and Furious? Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, you know what? I didn't get to see too much because I'd already gotten out onto the course, but yeah, the elites were out there and they were moving really quick. Like, you know, the way that course is designed, you blink and you literally blink and you can miss the race. There's really no elevation. There's very mild rolling hills to what we're used to, say, in Blue Mountain and some of those other places. So yeah, that course lends itself to speed, and it was dry, which made it perfect.
Nice. And was it hot or cold, or what was the temperature like? Because that is a big deal when you're running flat and fast. I find when you're running that fast, you're more in the red line zone, and it hurts more, and that's when the sun is blazing. I'm not a huge fan of that, but is what it is. What was the weather like there?
The weather was definitely warm. It was in the mid to high 20s. The rolling mud hills were really not rolling mud hills. The pit of water between the 2 hills was almost non-existent. It was like a dry path. The dunk wall, they managed to keep enough water in there for us to do the submersion, but it was really dry. Despite that, overnight, both nights it did rain, and we had a little bit of thunder, lightning, some hail when I was getting into Red Deer, but overall race day, the weather was perfect.
And I had heard that they were adding water to the dunk wall, so that's probably what happened.
Continuously add it.
Wow,
for sure.
That's crazy. So they had the 5K and the 10K. Did you do both of those, or did you just do the sprint?
No, I did both. I did the 10K on the Saturday, and then I did the 5K Sunday morning.
Awesome. And I think we were chatting, you said there were some obstacle changes slightly. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So they brought out the new Z wall. So it was 2 extra panels long. The one panel, instead of being your hand grips at the top and your foot grips at the bottom, the one section actually had rope grips. Now,
cool.
I've seen pictures before of the updated Z-Wall or the new Z-Wall where it actually had pegs and it didn't look like there was foot grips, but this one, it was just rope and you still had your foot grips at the bottom.
Okay.
They brought the new spear throw.
Did you hit it?
And I hit it on the Saturday, and the Sunday I threw it just that little bit too light and hit the top of the curve of the target.
So it only sticks into the hay, right? That's the only part.
That's the only part, yeah. So
yeah, they had that one when I was in Jacksonville.
At Jacksonville, they had that one.
Yeah, that was the first time I did that version of it. Yeah.
So just in case you needed more reason to practice your spear at home, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
The reason, just for anyone who's listening, the reason why there are differences on the West Coast to the East Coast, which is where Ottawa and Toronto, that's what we're considering East, is because Spartan has basically takes all of the races out in trailers, and they drive from venue to venue, and they keep the one trailer set over in the East area, and then they actually normally use trailer sets from the US. So they're coming up from the US into the West. So that's why there's sometimes a little bit of a difference between the things that you're seeing at the different races. So just because it's in the West doesn't mean it's coming to Ottawa or coming to the next race that we're having over here on the East. But that's the reason. So
yeah. So likely you're going to have that same truck, same equipment coming out there to Kelowna. So maybe before we wrap things up here, Mike, what do you expect to see in Kelowna coming up? Have you raced Kelowna? Why don't we just talk about that for a quick second?
Sure. No, I did the Beast last year in Kelowna. So just a few tips and hints for people that are looking to race Kelowna. Do expect elevation. Do expect some crazy steep climbs. The weather is going to be hit and miss. Last year, the race was, I think, the third weekend of August. The first day when I raced, it was wet, cold. We even had a little bit of snow during the race.
very Canadian.
The next day, yeah, exactly. And the next day, it was warm and dry, and you could be comfortable wearing like a t-shirt while you're standing there watching the race. But the biggest thing is just, be prepared for some climbs. The venue is a great venue, and it's a good challenging course. I look forward to going back and doing it again this year.
Yeah, so the opposite of Red Deer, which is flat and fast. It doesn't sound like Kelowna will be. Okay, is there any other highlights you want to share with us before we wrap up our Red Deer conversation? What was your favorite moment from Red Deer?
My favorite moment was actually working with the info tent. I got to talk with lots of people. There was lots of new racers, and where the info tent was, the kids start line was right beside it. Awesome. And it was just crazy, like how many kids were there. I think they had around 200 kids signed up on Saturday, so it was non-stop busy. It was great. Walking around the venue, everybody was excited. There was really good energy. Lots of people were engaged. They stopped by to check in on the upcoming races, asking lots of questions. So overall, I found Red Deer this year was really, really good. Lots of more people than last year, and the energy in general was even way more than last year. It was just great to be out there.
That's
awesome. So for those of you who maybe don't know what the info tent is, there is a tent at every race. We call it the info tent. You can go there to find answers to most of your questions, except probably results. You're going to need to go to the results tent for that.
But we'll tell you where that is. We'll tell you where the results tent is.
But if you go to the info tent, you will be meeting a lot of the Spartan ambassadors like Jill, Mike, and myself, and a lot of the friendly faces you've seen on our podcast here. So next time you're at a race, guys, make sure you come say hi, and we'll either just chit chat or we'll help lead you in the right direction to all of your quests for the day. So that is a wrap up on our Red Deer, and we're going to be bringing in Connor Bell, who we had on with us just a couple of weeks ago, who actually raced as part of the series. And he's going to give us a little bit of his experience, and then we're going to move things into Deka.
Excellent. And tonight, Amber explained, this is kind of the recap episode. We're just going to be recapping everything that's gone on in the last couple weeks, and we just thought it would be great to do some short and quick little interviews with multiple people, because there were so many moving parts, so many people involved. So this is pretty exciting to be able to talk to a bunch of people, ambassadors as well. So
yeah. So thank you so much, Mike, for coming on and joining us. It was a pleasure having you on the episode. And next up, we're bringing in Connor. All right, welcome back, Connor. If you guys don't know who he is, you need to go back and listen to episode 7, get his whole history, his whole story. One of my favorite stories to come out of this podcast is in that episode. So if you didn't listen to episode 7, you're going to stop listening, you're going to go back, and then you're going to come back to us here. So welcome back to the podcast, Connor. And we're going to jump right into it. How the big elephant in the room. How did your redemption race go in Red Deer?
It was exactly that. It was redemption. The whole thing was completing it and just make sure I sold out to the best of my ability, which exactly happened. I ended up coming third in my age group, I was happy with the podium at the end of the day. Like I said before, it was really flat, fast course, and it worked to my advantage. So it was fun. I went against a couple worthy competitors, both Pat Millington as well as Jason Laporta, who's a little speedster. If you don't know him, get to know him because he's an absolute animal. But it went well. I missed my spear, but other than that, I can't take that too full-heartedly, because the fitness was there, and because fitness was there, I was. So yeah, it was really good redemption race for me.
how close was it? Did the spear make a difference?
You know what? I see, the whole thing is, it's like I would never be somebody who would say if I hit the spear I would have caught Pat. Like I give to Pat because he had a minute 20 on me still. And he ran a hell of a good race.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, extra little lap puts a little bit more fatigue on you. When it puts a little bit more fatigue on you, you start running anxiously, your heart rate starts to raise. So I think I could have gave him a bigger fight, and maybe it would have been closer, but he got me for sure.
I love it. You're always so humble about it too. Crushes it, and always humble about it no matter what. It's never a poor me story for Connor. That I do appreciate that.
Yeah.
That's okay, because the redemption really didn't stop there. You guys, you know what? We've done the whole Red Deer recap. We've heard Connor's quick little redemption story there, but I like to think you really redeemed yourself last weekend at the first ever Deka Fit event in Canada, because I don't know, where did you land yourself on the podium?
I ended up, I think I got first. I think so. Yeah.
He thinks, yeah.
He thinks, yeah, he crushed it. So let's just jump right into that, because Deka is also flat and fast.
Mm-hmm.
But
and
tell us a little bit about your first Deka Fit event experience. That was your first ever Deka Fit, right?
That was my first ever Deka Fit, yes. Oh my gosh, hell of an experience. There's like, if they go back, and listeners, if you go back and listen to my other episode, I get like this type of like race intensity. And the whole thing was, I still, if you go back to the start line, I was still a big smile on my face because Sandy kept making me laugh about different things the entire time. And I looked at all the guys start line. I was like, guys, if we all push each other, we can all get the best times, like personally. So let's all do that. And they're all like, yeah. And it was really intense. The course, like you say, it's fast, it's flat. It's basically just go for 30, 40, 50 minutes, whatever your time that you're looking for is. And my goal was sub 35. Figured I could do it, and I put up 34:47, and I landed first. And it was a big one for me too, because again, I don't like to ever seem like I have too ambitious of goals, because it's perspective to everybody too at the same time. But I really wanted a first place throughout this year. And Brimacombe, I took second again. I took third. I took fourth in Mont Tremblant. And then I took another second somewhere else as well, too. I took a third in Alberta. So it's like, I just wanted to win. And I finally got one. And I was happy because, again, it was fitness paying off. So, yeah, it was a grind.
It was against Pat too. Not to drag Pat, because we would love to have Pat on here as well for this episode. But it was also against your friend and little mini rival Pat as well. So did that make the victory sweeter, or?
He knows it did, hands down. Yeah. Because we have a friendly competition. He takes me one place, I take him another place too. So right now I think the tally is, I think it's like tied, or maybe I have him by one race now for like Deka, yeah. Okay, so big. Yeah.
Calabogie is on.
Yeah, Calabogie is on. Before we get into a little bit more about this rivalry here, because there is a happy ending to this story, let's just kind of like recap Deka Fit event, because it was a Deka Fit Roadshow. So if you guys, again, haven't heard to the episode we did with Robin where we explain, there are some minor differences between a Deka Fit that's hosted by Deka and a Deka Fit Roadshow that's hosted by an affiliate gym. There are some very small adjustments. I don't even want to say modifications. There's just a few tweaks in there. So go back, listen to that. But one of the things is the run. Usually when Deka puts on a Deka event, it's in this like massive convention hall. Like we're talking like thousands upon thousands of square foot convention hall where you can fit a 250-meter loop in the hall with space. Obviously a Deka Fit Roadshow didn't have that. So we were running out of a door and coming back in, and the weather was not favorable. But you two, I'm gonna kind of like chime both of you in. You both have raced Spartans, so obviously the torrential rain pour on your run. How did we feel about that? We'll start with Jill, because Jill, I'm gonna shift your role here a little bit.
All right. Well, for me, I actually completely appreciated it, because I love rain as long as it's not like -4 and it's raining. If it's hot and raining, it's the best thing ever. So it was like I got a little relaxation and a cool down every time I took that run. So the only thing was, is it going to be slippery? And it wasn't slippery. So thankfully for that, it was great that way. And I just took it as a break. If you can have a break in Deka. But it's Spartan. Like, I mean, if you're used to Spartan, if you could show up and like geese are falling from the sky or something, and you just go and run, because that's Spartan. So I expect nothing less from Deka.
Connor, what did you think?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with everything you just said, Jill. As far as it goes with, like, I run at a very high temperature. So like going out into the rain, when I saw the rain was going down, I was like, oh, this could give me like a big plus, to be honest. The only thing was, it's like, okay, the slippering on the floor I was thinking was going to be a thing, but it wasn't. It was more of just like you were getting slick a little bit with obstacles, or with like mainly the medicine balls with flipping a little bit out, and the D balls. Exactly. But I mean, I work on my grip enough that like it really didn't build too much of a adversity into the whole play of the Deka Fit event. But no, I liked it. I liked the rain. And to be honest, it gave like a really dramatic effect to the event as well too. And as Spartan athletes, we thrive off adversity when things like that come up too. So we've already put in our heads, we're going to deal with all those little things come up. And I think I was speaking to Bethany McChesney after, and I said, how'd you feel about the whole thing? And she said, what did you mean? I said, like the whole like set up everything in general. And obviously she's someone who set up a Deka Mile and is strong in her gym as well before. And she goes, I think the fun thing about this sometimes is like, even though there's, I don't want to say inconsistencies in gyms, because it's not the word I'm looking for, but there's different variables that you deal with. She goes, you just adjust to it. And when you adjust to it, it almost makes you a better athlete at the end of the day. And I was like, oh, I love that mindset, that mind frame too, because it's kind of how we all had to deal with it. And yeah, I agree with it.
And Amber, how was it for you? Because Amber was the host. Were you very, very stressed out immediately? I never got to ask you this. Like,
either.
I know things like that send me into a slight tailspins if I'm the organizer. How did you feel about it?
Yeah, you know what? It was just one of those things. Like there was no solution unless like I had a few conversations. There was a few people who were a little put back by the rain. And the only thing I said was, unless I can call Mother Nature and make this weather adjustment for you, there's nothing else I can do. So we just did our best to, you know, ensure the course was safe. We ran out. We actually purchased like a bunch of black mats to put at the entrance to try and like collect some of the rain off everybody's shoes going into the zones and stuff like that. And I really think like we handled it in the best way that we could, to allow the athletes to just continue doing what they do best and just thrive in all situations. And really and truly, those who are prepared mentally and physically really did continue to thrive despite any conditions that were thrown at them. And like everybody just had such a great time. And it just was, I didn't even care that it was raining, because I just saw people enjoying the sport so much in their experience anyways. And I was just like, this is great. I felt like it just added to the experience. And it was like the first ever Deka in Canada, probably the first ever Deka in a torrential rainstorm. Like, it was epic.
It was. I agree with you on that. I think the energy in the building was just crazy and next level. It was very much like Spartan, but we were all in a building together, so that made it more intense, I think. So I had
I always find
young
like,
girls with
when
me.
we host our events. When we host
No.
our events, and this is the exact same vibe we had in the very first Deka Strong that we did in our gym in January. And the only word I could think of to like describe the energy in this room was like electric. And I felt that same energy this past weekend. Like, it was just like electric. Like, there might not have been lightning outside, but there was definitely something going on in the building that was like next level. So
And if there was lightning, we would have all dealt with it.
True fact. There was no lightning, everybody. We were all safe. We were just wet.
So Connor, I want to ask you, this is really moving into the next part, talking about exciting, the Deka team event. First of all, tell us about your partner, and then let us know how it went.
It was funny because when you guys asked me to come on an interview a couple weeks ago, and unless we had that interview, I wouldn't have been partners with them, because I don't think I would have called them up to say, do you want to do this? And so me and Pat ended up tackling Deka teams together, kind of enemies coming together as one. And I only went to put us as enemies because we're both really nice guys. And it's like we both maybe want to dislike each other, but we can't because we're both too nice to each other. Nice. So it's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you want that grit of a challenge of an enemy,
pretend,
right? Like,
pretend.
But it's funny. I think we were both nervous. I think we both knew the people we were going against were going to be, they were elite competitors. We knew all four of them were. And we knew what they've done before. We know times they put up together in different groups together as well, 2 or different duos together. And me and him were just going in as like age group athletes, being like, okay, let's just show what we can do here.
Do it.
Really with little to no planning too. Like, it was more or less like we talked about it, but we went in just like hoping for the best. And I said to him, I said, man, if you sell out on all those machines, I said, I'll sell out on every single run that I can, trying to hold with these two, I was going to swear, but these 2 strong efforts is what I'll say. Anyways, yeah. And it was great. Oh my God, it was so electric. It was so intense. Like we made such a good comeback at the end. I'll probably skip in things as I'm just thinking in my head about how crazy it was. But we set out a goal to break 30 minutes, and we happened to do it too. And we just want to stay close. We were just trying to stay somewhat.
Yeah.
And
I will give you the full down low, because I was judging. I was actually judging Connor and Pat. I had the honor of taking them through. No, okay. First of all, I was just so fired up, like, to see the 2 of you like just come together as a team, like knowing the history, and like you guys honestly, like, it's the best kind of sportsmanship in this like so-called rival. Like, really and truly, there's the utmost respect that these 2 guys have for each other. So seeing them come together, first of all, I was like so fired up. Second of all, I got to judge you guys. And then third of all, it was questionably the best moment of the entire weekend. Like, that race, oh my God. Like, it was, talk about fast, talk about tight. Like, you guys were flying in and out of the zones. It was leapfrog. I mean, yes, Mark Seeds and Kevin Gregory did extend their lead closer to the skier out of zone 5, which, and no offense, we kind of
to be expected,
but they were never actually that far ahead. Like, I gotta say, you and Pat and Zach and Josh, like, you guys gave them one hell of a race. So let's just talk about teams before I like give you guys the full recap on this like team event, because it was crazy insane. That was your first experience as like teams at that intensity. So like, how did you guys feel, you know, partway through? Like, it's intense. You're redlining. So like, how was that for you guys?
So that was our first experience as teams ever. He'd never done teams before. I've never done teams before. In general, we've both very individual oriented athletes, and we take success on our own backs, and we take failures on our own backs as well too. So I think we were both nervous to put that on someone else at the same time, but that's what made it fun. That's why we said we'll both sell out. And it was so we both went out hot. I said to him, I said, if you get to that lunch station first, I said, wait, and I'll get there right behind you, and then maybe we'll give you a little time. Maybe the wrong call. Who's to say? We don't know until you kind of go through the entire thing. I think it probably was a little bit of the wrong call, to be honest.
It's a little hot.
We went out so hot against two of like the best runners of Josh and Mark, right? And I was like, oh my God, he's giving her right now. So I'm going to try to stay with them. And they're all Zach and oh my goodness, and Bubbles, they're so proficient on their machines. So like, I just seeing Pat in between them at all times, I was like, oh my God, that's the most intimidating thing ever. You got two animals on both sides of Pat. Pat's just hammering these machines down as fast as he can. So I'm like, then I'm running with these two absolute gazelles at the same time. And I'm like, we're both just trying to hold up, right? So like, you can see on both of our faces, we're just trying to hold with these two. Probably got to around zone 6 or 7, and it's when we really both felt the diminishing returns essentially on what we were doing and our race tactics. Looking back at it, if we could, I would have hopped in for half the ski and half of the D balls and given him a 250-meter run here or there. But we had never communicated before. We didn't know. We were trying to figure. He didn't want to make me do something because he thought I was fatigued. I didn't want to make him do something because I thought he was fatigued. So we were just going back and forth playing cat and mouse with but yeah, that would probably be the one thing we look back on. And by the end, that last run, I knew he had nothing left in him, and I knew I had something left in me, because if you remember specifically, when I was doing pushes, I felt good. And when I felt good, I said, oh no, I shouldn't have this energy in my tank right now. Didn't. So I said I probably should have hopped in and done more, but I mean, live and learn, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk about some of these zones actually, because like, I'm going to give you guys some numbers because I was right there in the thick of it. Like, you know, like I said, we're going to kind of unravel this race, because it was something nuts. So first of all, yeah, let's just talk about the fact that Pat came flying into zone 1, like a bat out of hell. And I was like, hold up, like your partner, like, whoa. And where is the other 4? Like the other 2 teams that are supposed to be super fast. So anyways, you guys had a lead for at least one zone. I'll give you that. But then they came into the row, and you're right. Like, poor Pat is just between these 2 like monstrous machine guys. And let me tell you, I was standing behind because I was obviously judging his monitor. They were all in the 130s the entire time. Like, we're talking like this was nuts. Like, these guys were rowing so controlled, like just crushed it. Like, just crushed it. I don't know, like, if you could tell that from the sidelines looking in, Jill, but like, yeah, they were pretty comfortable.
It almost looks like they pull twice, even though they're pulling almost a little bit slower. It just they just look so efficient doing it. It looks like they pull 10 times and they're done. You know, like somehow they got the thing to spin and collect enough air to finish it in 3 pulls, you know? So it's a little different.
Genuinely proud to see, because I'm pretty sure I saw 129 and 131 on both sides of him, and Pat was still sitting at like a 134, and I was like, oh my God, like he's trying his best to hold in there. And it helped every time, like that we lost like a few seconds. I kept trying to just hold with Josh as much as I could. Mark was, but if I could hold with Josh a little bit, Mark was just like, again, he was just cougar, just cheat gazelle. Yeah. But
you know what, it was really cool to see you guys like almost be pushed a little extra, because like you and Pat are always like kind of neck and neck, right? But you're coming into another realm where like, I think obviously like you would give these guys a run for their money out on the Spartan course, and you have, like, you know, you've smashed Zach out on the Spartan course, right? So you kind of come into a different area, and it's very cool to see those different athleticisms get put into play in a very different role. But also like to see you guys elevate your game was super exciting, because I always say like, I think you guys have a little more in the tank, right? But sometimes you just need that little fire under you to show yourself that. And I think it really started to show at the row, and you guys came out, like you held your own, and I was like, F yeah. Like I was there for it. So let's keep going, because, and I want to point out one thing, and what's really, really cool about this team heat and these three teams going up against each other specifically was just the perfect representation of Deka and sportsmanship. And I'm not kidding you guys, like that heat just represented Deka in every aspect. The camaraderie, the level of respect, the level of athleticism at the elite level. Like I hope there's videos where everybody can witness what went down, because it was truly, truly just fun spirited. There's just so much respect out there, so much fun, so much camaraderie, like friendships were forming. And yeah, I don't know, like if that was just because I was in the thick of it, but
I have goosebumps of you talking. It was funny because all 6 of us were dead just by the end, and you could see there's a little video, and if anyone's watching this, they can go and check out that video somehow, what you have in your Instagram account, and hopefully there's more footage of all of us laying there just like drenched in our own filth or sweat. And at one point made eye contact with each other, like either me to Pat or me to Josh or me and Zach. Zach gives me a little like thumbs up, like I look at Bubbles is looking at Zach. Everyone's looking around at each other just like, holy shit, we all just died and left out there. And then I went over to Pat and I hit him on the arm in the video see, and I just said, did we just become best friends? And he's like, yeah.
Yes, I love it.
When you do something like this and that intensity where you're literally like relying on your partner because their success is your success, you become friends on another level, but also with those you're competing against, because you're elevating each other. So like that team heat specifically, and there was a lot of other like amazing heats this weekend, guys, don't get me wrong, but that heat specifically was just the perfect representation of sportsmanship at the elite level and the bond that fitness really creates. So let's keep this rolling a little bit more, because there's a few things I want to deload. So you guys, the box. Okay, I'm sorry, Pat's gonna be coming on to this episode, but poor Pat, you came in flying into the zone. You guys hand-on-hand contact, and then I'll let you take it from there.
Oh, every time that I was flying in, like because he was always on the furthest one too, I had to run past everyone, because like it's just the way that I was always the last one in there, right? And I was always like, oh, he's just sitting there waiting for me. So I would come zooming in, hit his hand, and then like run past the station. And I almost always like hit you or run into you every time. Well, I hit him so quick, this guy went out like a bat out of hell. And not only did he trip once, I think he tripped twice over the box trying to get
3 times.
Which, if you look at Zach and Bubbles, everyone at this level has done it, because your mind's almost working as fast as your body, or if not faster too, and everything's just trying to connect in one thing, and the anxiety and the pressure's so high. He made it for it nonetheless, but oh my goodness, he was flying. Yeah,
But you know what? He got his rhythm back, and I mean, I know the box over is like there's a lot going on there, and if you lose your rhythm, like I actually, believe it or not, guys, the Deka box over queen wiped out over the box on Friday night. While I was practicing. I might need to add that into the reel of Zach and Kevin falling over the box. But there is this like Canadian thing where like every time Kevin comes up to Canada, him or Zach falls over the box in a record-breaking attempt. And there's a video of it on Zach's Instagram. So I think we're just going to add Pat into it, because it was his turn. He was competing against them. It was his turn to fall over the box. It just happened to be his day. So we're going to add him in there. But
Amber, what were the time differences between the top 3 in that group? Because was it a huge difference or? Not
a huge difference. So they were, I mean, Kevin Mark, I think, had like a little over a minute on Zach and Josh, but then I want to say it was like 30, 40 seconds, maybe between the second and third. Like it was a tight race. And here's the next part. So you guys came into the ski, and I got to give Pat credit. Like he held his own against those two mammoths on the ski. Like he really held his own. You guys did fall back a little bit there. I do think you're right. I think you maybe should have jumped in for 30 seconds even. But the farmer's carry, I don't know what the heck happened. You guys came into that farmer's carry. Pat closed a massive gap on the farmer's carry. Like a massive gap. It was like you guys were back in the game all of a sudden. So tell us about that.
You know what I think it was? Because then after you said that, I was like, yeah, we did. Where did we catch so much time? Well, because the partners subbed the other ones out for the other teams when it came into the ski erg, they switched up their running. When they switch up their runners, I kept running, and I was able to find Zach a little bit and somewhat catch up to, I don't know if it was Mark that ended up running again, but if Mark did end up running again, he took the skier a little bit, possibly too. I'm not sure, but there was switching in between them. And because Pat stayed consistent, I got a whole 2 minutes of break. And when I had the whole 2 minutes of break and I saw him dying, I just sent that thing as fast as I could. And then when I hit him on the side, he was somewhat recovered because he didn't run a half lap in between as well too. So he was able just to jet back and forth. Again, I mean, he was dying by the time he got over to the assault bike than the D-ball. So it's such a fun game to play because there's so many different ways that you can attack it in teams, and that is the dynamicism, or whatever the word I'm looking at, the dynamics of what teams is so much. There's just so many different ways to play it out, and I think that's the fun of it, hands down.
Well, that was crazy. Like that gap that you guys closed, I was like, I don't know what I just witnessed. But like we've got ourselves a race. And then the bike, you guys, you were, I think, still out running, and the three guys were positioned on the bike. And of course, Mark came flying in, tags off Kevin, and Kevin just starts doing what he's doing. And then this is where the camaraderie really started forming, because I don't know if you guys heard, but Zach and Pat were chirping Bubbles while he was going, and they were like, come on, old man, like you can move faster. Like this guy crushes the bike in 21 seconds, and he's still got these guys on his shoulder chirping him. Like it was funny. So I don't know, did you witness any of that, or were you out running laps still?
I saw all of that, just so you know. And for anybody who's listening, normal people, I would say the average person is going to do the bike between 2 and 3 minutes, like the average person. So 21 seconds on the bike is insanity, but go on.
That is hilarious that they were chirping him on there, because like he's known as the, just like you're the box over queen, Amber, he's the assault bike king. There's nobody that beats that guy assault bike, at least not right now. So the fact they were chirping him, I was actually sad because I was running that I didn't get to witness the Kevin Gregory assault bike, but nonetheless.
Yeah. It's on video somewhere. I feel like I've seen it on a video already. So
I just want to see it in person. That's it.
Yeah, true.
It's crazy. And I remember, like, I was standing there, like, kind of beside, well, I think I was in front of Zach and Pat, because they were back to back based on the way the zones were. And I just remember Pat being like, you can hear this bike just revving up behind him, and Zach's looking at him like, do you hear that? And like they're chatting, and it was so funny. Anyway, so there was chirps flying in the bike, and then Zach was in and out, and I think his bike was 29 seconds, and Pat's bike, he held his own. I want to say he was probably 40 seconds on the bike, in and around, like
crazy.
He was well under a minute anyways. Like again, we had ourselves a race. Skip the D-balls, the tank. You came into that tank. You guys did not have much of a lead after the bike, let's be honest. Mm-hmm. Those two guys, they absolutely destroyed the bike. Their runners went out, they did their thing. You guys came into the tank and you had another gap to close. So let's talk about the gap that you closed there.
Yeah, he took the first one, and you could tell he was hurting. He was hurting hard, and you can just tell when you still have a little bit something left in the energy, or in your tank or your reserve, and just knowing how the rest plays out, you're like, okay, I got one run in burpees. That's just all mental at that point. If you still got something left, let's push it here. And I basically said like, hey, hit one and give it back to me, like, or two. I'm not sure if he did one or two. But I said, I'll hit one for you, then you can go back in. And then when I started pushing, I was like, oh, I feel fine right now. And I saw Zach beside me, and like the guy was just pushing assault bike intervals and such too. I knew he was dying, just like Pat, just like Bubbles as well too. But I felt like pretty good. The thing between running and doing all the machines, running, your aerobic threshold or your heart rate gets super, super high for layman's terms, right? But your legs actually hold on pretty well. Machines, yeah, your heart rate's getting high and your legs are becoming absolute jello, right? So I knew my legs were they still had a little something in them. So I said, screw it, I'll do another one. And as I was doing another one, I saw myself just like hammering through this, and I started smiling. And Pat's girlfriend was looking and goes, she's taking pictures and she's going, why are you smiling? I was like, I feel good right now. Like, good. Let's keep going right now. Yeah.
You're looking at me like, you're like, am I passing him? I'm like, you're passing him. Like, go. Like, you definitely, I think they had at least, I want to say a lap and a half on you guys. A lap and a half as in a push, pull, and a push. By the time you guys came in, you closed that gap. Like, Connor came in and he was just getting after it, but like smiling and feeling so good about doing it. And I've never seen anybody feel that good on the tank. And I just looked at Pat. I was like, he's going. Like,
yeah.
I think you do 3 tanks.
I did 3 tanks. Yeah. I slammed
3 middle ones.
Yeah. Take the last one so I can give my leg just a second, and then I'll start the burpees essentially. So yeah, I'll carry right on. So then we went into the run. And I knew this was where it was fun too. And I'm not sure if Jill, if you heard this as well too, but I knew he was dying, and I kept saying to him, I'll take the burpees to start off, and I'll give you the time. Just get to the station with me. Just get to the station. So we do the first lap, and it's hard because when you're with a partner, you want to hold back, but you also don't want to hold too much back because you're also being a pace like goat for him at the same time. You're trying. If I stay in front, hopefully it pushes you. So we got around the first lap. And as we went around the first lap, we went back inside like the stadium, if you will. And as I was coming around, I saw him coming in the door. And I said, everyone, like, give it up for Pat. Like, let's go, Pat, right now. And everyone started cheering for Pat. And I it was big. Yeah, it was huge. So the guy kept pushing. I knew he was dying for a good reason too. Doing all those machines, I couldn't even imagine. But yeah, we got to the burpees, and I said, I'll push out 12 and you push out 8. And yeah, it's basically the rest is it. That's basically what we did. And he slammed him out, I slammed him out, and we were able to hold, I think, like you said, 35 seconds off of Zach and Josh there. That's good.
Just absolutely
and like, just
crazy.
To put in perspective, every team was under 30 minutes in this heat. Like, I think you guys were 29, 27.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
How does that compare to the leaderboard, Amber? What's the leaderboard for men's team?
I haven't actually checked that, but I can tell you, so you and Pat were 29, 27. And I know because if you flip it, that's what Kevin and Mark's score was. 27, 29 was Kevin and Mark. So I do know Kevin and Mark are going to be seeking revenge on the record, because it wasn't the best runner's course. It wasn't a straight up. We had to throw in some sharp turns. Like, it wasn't as gradual. So the run was slightly slower in a sense than you would get in the Deka Fit arena. So I'm excited to see if those two are going to race again. They wanted to go 25 and a half. So they've got some work to do, but I think it was essentially in their runs. I think they could speed up. I mean, you guys saw Mark going at it, and he was quite comfortable out there. And I think if you give him a more gradual turn and less of a stop and go, I think it'd be crazy to see that and what they could also put out. But not only that, I think all of you, like, that was not a runner's course essentially, and those times were extremely respectable.
Yeah, I'm just looking at them now. So did you say they were all times were sub 30?
Yep. So Connor and Pat were 29, 27, because I know it was exactly flipped from, now that I said that, I wanted to say they were a minute and a half apart from each other. They were about 2 minutes, because it was exactly flipped. I looked at it entering and I was like, well, that's weird. But yeah.
So the current leaderboard would have you guys at 21st place. So
I thought so. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty amazing.
Nice.
Especially as a Canadian team too. Like you can't see on the screen, obviously, what I'm looking at, but I don't see any Canadian teams on this Deka Fit leaderboard. So are you guys going to try and do it again, possibly in Philadelphia coming up?
I doubt it, to be honest. And to be honest, Deka Fit teams for Worlds was never really on the agenda unless like something really big happened for both of us. I think we just really wanted to try it out and just see. But if I'm being completely honest, if I do go to Worlds, it'd probably be Deka Fit individuals if my time holds in the top 20 age group there, and then the next day Deka Mile individual, and then I'm gonna let it drop right now. I got a real strong partner for a Deka Strong duo that we're dropping at September 24th at Sandy's place, and we think we can do. I'm not going to put the time out there, even though I usually do, but we think we can do really, really, really well because he's an animal. So he reminds me. His name's Jamie. His name's Jamie. You wouldn't know him actually. He's never done anything like this stuff before, but he's a strong man, if you will, with a good amount of endurance.
Nice.
So yeah.
All right.
We will.
I'm excited. Do I get the honor of judging this again?
Are you going to be at Sandy's?
I think it's.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the farm girl that's coming up, or is Sandy having one as well?
Oh wait, is it not Sandy? Sorry. It's the one on September 24th.
Yeah,
is it
I
Jessie?
believe that it just so if anybody wants to go, it's Farm Girl Fitness is having another one. So I think that is.
My head has been in the clouds of hosting Deka Fit, so I haven't looked at like who's hosting what, but you know, I'm at like as many Deka Fit Canada events as I can be. So I'm there. I am having the honor of judging you again, but actually,
I will be
fun
there
fact,
as well, so.
The box over queen and the bike king are aligning for a Deka Strong.
Oh,
so,
that's awesome.
You guys.
That's
I like this.
Yeah, so there's going to be a pretty exciting throwdown happening, and if we hit our splits, I don't know, we're talking like a real fast time. So stay tuned on that front in the Deka news. That'll be September 1st weekend in Connecticut.
Nice.
Yeah. So, Kev, if you're listening, that's out of the bag. No turning back now.
That is awesome.
So excited.
Yeah.
So excited.
Anyways, with that said, is there any like? I know we really put a spotlight on the Deka team heat this weekend just because it was so
exciting.
Incredible.
It was exciting.
It was exciting.
Anybody who went knows that it was a whole vibe on its own. It could be its own podcast, and not just talking about the men's elite, which was like spectacular. There were other things going on in that room too that were just as exciting, and they weren't even close to the same time. So it was good to highlight all of these things, and I'm sure we'll do more as we go. But we've also got Calabogie coming up in the next couple weeks, and I know we're going to be speaking with the obstacle specialist course, Sandy, as well, about that coming up. And Calabogie, Connor, will you be at that one?
You bet your ass I will be. I'm go pretty hard at that one, hands down. I'm not taking it as an A race, but my body feels good right now. I feel like I'm just hitting the peak of my fitness this year right now. So I'm excited for that one. Very, very excited, hands down. And once you know the course, you're more familiar with it. It gives you a little confidence too. So yeah.
Totally does.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, Calabogie, I'm not going to Calabogie this year, unfortunately. Just didn't fit into my schedule of race scheduling, but Calabogie, I have to say, was one of my favorite races. The scenery is beautiful. The dunk wall last year was in the lake, and it was so fun. So if you're considering Calabogie, guys, I highly, highly recommend going. It was hands down one of my favorite races I've done so far, specifically the 10K there. I absolutely love the super in Calabogie.
Me too. Jill, are you going?
I am. I'm going on Friday. I'll be there all weekend, of course. And actually, I'm going to try and run the age group in the morning, 5K, and then I'm going to just try to run and do the trail as well. So that is my, of course, I'm doing the 10K the day before, but I'm going to see if I can do both races in the same day. So that means I have to run fast with the 5K.
Love it. That's so good.
Because it's the only trail. So
yeah, the trail race is there too, which is
but I personally don't want to give up the 5K because I really like the 5K because I'm kind of like Connor as well. I like to run fast and run downhill fast, but so I like 5Ks, and so we'll see.
Okay. All right. Well, you know what, you guys, we just had a great episode. We do plan on getting Pat on here to talk with us. If it doesn't happen in this episode, that just means you need to come back for the next one. So Pat, if you're listening, we can't wait to have you on here and hear your side of this kind of started out as a rivalry, now turned into best friends. So stay tuned, guys. This story will be continued, whether it's on this episode or the next one. Thank you so much for listening. And like always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and come back for more. We'll see you soon.